The 2025 Senior Bowl is in the books. Mobile, Alabama hosted tons of players over this past week, and they did a great job showcasing their talent to these NFL evaluators. But Marshall Edge Mike Green solidified himself as a top 20 pick in this 2025 draft class. Let's go ahead and dive into the tape and talk about why I believe that's where he's going to end up going and what he was able to do at the Senior Bowl, really, that showcased all the different things. Really, this is the clip that everyone remembers, him just blowing through Oregon tackle Josh Connolly, right? He coils at the snap, he goes right through the chest and explodes through, really not caring too much after what to do. You're supposed to really finish that rep through, get to the quarterback, but he was pumped, jacked up to really showcase that speed to power that he really put on display in his last year at Marshall before entering the draft. Now, we are going to talk more about him as a pass rusher, what he can do, why one-on-ones aren't always the best scenario for showcasing not just offensive tackles but for defensive ends. But we want to focus on Mike Green as the whole player, right? All of the tape that we have, why is he being talked about in the first round before the Senior Bowl, and then putting on tape and leaving after the second day of practices as to why. Like, what does he do that translates, and why did he need that confirmation? Well, we always talk about, for these smaller school players, you know, out of Marshall, it is a smaller school for Mike Green, but what do you do and how is that going to translate against better competition? Well, this is here against Ohio State earlier in 2024, and then he came again to the Senior Bowl to showcase against that better talent. And against the run, Mike Green does have long arms. He has 34-inch arms at 6'3", 251 pounds. So he came in, looked the part with those long arms and extension. Now, I'd love to see him in the run use those long arms to set the edge a bit more, to really get the outside. But what you see here again is he does explode through. He comes up through here. He's going to get both hands underneath, and you want to see him initially extend. But what he does well is he fights across the face of that tackle, right? He gets into this B gap. So eyes, initially, again, very good at locating the football. So he goes to the inside of that B gap. He flashes inside, gets his eyes on the ball carrier, and from there, he can disengage outside or inside. This time he fights through again to that B gap to help bring this tackle down for the running back so they don't get the touchdown right there in that play. And then you want to be physical, right? You want to locate that football, which we just saw. Again, he's doing a nice job on the outside, always fighting to the inside. That's one of the things. He does have the ability to set the edge, like I mentioned, with that length, but for somebody of his quickness, his stature, where he wins, he does live in the backfield. He had 22 and a half tackles for loss this season. He does better kind of getting quick penetrations. So here again, he's going to fight to the inside, and he's going to take up 2 blocks in the process, and that's going to keep his second level defenders clean. And that's another area of his game where he's not directly getting those tackles for losses or the tackle himself, but those translate in every aspect as well. Living in the backfield does make it to the next level in terms of the NFL. So here again, he fights through to that B gap, and he's going to draw attention from both these players right here, which he's going to get caught. When you can get inside of those gaps, you force tackles and guards alike to really hone in on you, and then you get caught up right there. So he's trying to turn his shoulders, right? He does a good job getting skinny as well, turning his shoulders, really mimicking that, bending at the hips, going down and really tipping those shoulders inside overall to be able to keep those players lined up on him and then be a problem in the backfield. So you take that attention from those offensive linemen. Number 8 here can flow with, like I said, with the play. He's going to get out here where that tackle is unable to go get a block, and number 8 there can just get that tackle right there for loss. So Mike Green, when he's not impacting it as that guy who gets in the backfield blowing up the play, he can take on blocks and be a nuisance to some of these guys. But overall, for somebody, again, his size, he looks smaller on tape than he did at Mobile. I wonder if he put on some weight, but even if he did, he still showed that explosive first step. He showed his speed, his agility, all those things at that 251 pounds. So looked the part. You have those long arms. One thing that he will need to clean up is when you play high like that and when you play to get inside gaps, you will get caught up top. So here he tries to fight inside again to see where that ball carrier is and where he's coming, and this tackle does a nice job of kind of waiting for him to do it, getting his arms underneath right there. So you see right this is where you see those arms come underneath into the chest of Mike Green, who is, again, not really caring as much about the tackle in this sense. He wants to be able to see where the ball carrier goes, but he can just kind of get overpowered at the point of attack when you're playing as high, and then you see him kind of buckling backwards a little bit here. Tackle is going to do a nice job of just throwing him off to the outside here, opening up a lane for the running back. So you can get kicked out of the club a little bit, as they say, when you're playing that high and you let some of these tackles into your chest. So that's just something he's going to have to be more mindful of. Being a defensive end, you're going to want to set the edge a little bit more, and I do believe he's going to play, edge, that 4-3 defensive end in the NFL, where he's a little bit more of a wider technique. Get those arms on, set the edge, funnel things inside, and then disengage. So, and just some things he does have to work on, but we talked about him getting in the backfield and being quick, right? This is another one of those things. They have a little split action zone where they motion down a receiver, and then he's going to come over and block. This is a big tight end, I believe, number 0. And then he's going to come out and again try to block out here Mike Green, who's going to come off the edge, unblocked. Again, they want that motion here. They want him to come upfield and then block down, get that free block, and then just kind of wham him out. But he does a nice job of identifying where the ball carrier is and getting underneath the block. So he condenses, he doesn't get upfield, right? When you're a defensive end and you're not blocked, sometimes, especially because you always want to go after that mesh point, right? Where he does a good job of doing that as well, but he condenses a little bit and he gets up underneath, again, moving his shoulder out and around and kind of rotating that upper body to get out of the way. That's another thing that he does very well. We talked about how he can get skinny in between some gaps, B or A, wherever he's lined up. Obviously, he played linebacker at one point as well before he played defensive end for Marshall. So he has some off-ball presence where Marshall will bring him out here and just kind of float him around in different gaps around in the back. They will drop him into coverage as well. But overall, when you see him kind of use that body, his upper body, to kind of dip his shoulders in and out right here, again, condenses, good job, and then he just kind of dips that inside shoulder underneath, more like that wrong arm technique that we see from defensive ends when they're taking on blocks, pullers and things like, and those kind of things. So right there does a nice job of almost like crowbarring underneath a block and then getting off and disengaging and helping out with the tackle right there. So with those quick techniques that he has, we talk about how he's living in the backfield, right? And you can create other problems. You can destroy plays as well, like he does right here for the team inside the red zone. If you're constantly living in the backfield, you're finding ways to kind of not freelance, because I think over time, we've seen players that live in gaps and kind of quick. Right here, again, you see he just kind of dips that shoulder while he leans in, so he has really good balance going laterally, and he does a nice job of getting into that gap, rotating those shoulders around so he doesn't get blocked, and there's far less target area for the blocker, and then he just kind of lives in the backfield. So I feel like they get a bad name for these gaps, these gappers that consistently live in the backfield, like they're almost undisciplined rushers. He maintains his gap discipline for the most part. He doesn't gap himself out of plays all the time against the run. I just love to see him use that length to the outside and use one arm, keep the outside hand free, to where he's able to be that true edge setting run defender, which with time, I think maybe a little bit more bulk too, if maybe he puts on 10 pounds, which his frame will definitely allow, that he can be that type of complete defensive end. Because right now, there's nothing wrong with being that gapping guy that kind of sits in there and just gets underneath blocks and everything like that. I just want to see a little bit more physicality. And then when you have that pad level, I think it really can complete his game. So from a pass rushing perspective, we know he has a ton of tools at his disposal. 17 sacks last season alone. So right here, this is probably where he's going to line up far more in the NFL from a pure pass rush perspective. You see more of that wide angle for him so he can set up tackles, move them out to his spot with that first step. Here, he does a really nice job of setting up the inside move. So he's going to come downhill, kind of hesitate. You see where the tackle's moving, right? He's coming down here like he's going to open up his hips towards the sideline. And as soon as he does that, this is where Mike Green, again, does a really nice job of understanding. He can get into that B gap with a little bit of hesitation and the quickness, and he's going to finish this off with that swim move over top. Arm gets caught a little bit, goes after the ankles, and there it is for the sack. So when you see defensive ends that have that first step quickness, that speed off the edge, the ability to truly threaten the arc with speed, with different angles like here. And if you have that speed to really get off the ball there and get downhill and hopefully corner to the quarterback, you have that ability to threaten these these tackles into opening their hips. And he times it really well. So here's that opening the gate just a little bit from the tackle. Once again, showcasing that opening his outside hip towards the sideline, and that's what Mike Green wants, is where he sees it, identifies it, and then gets down line right there. So he can change his directions very quickly and times it very well. And here again, how we sequencing is so important. So when you're able to threaten inside and win to the inside, tackles maybe take a little bit of a more narrow path, and that gives you different options. So this time, instead of going inside, because it's a little bit more of a narrow path, while he still opens the gate, right? He opens the gate here, but it's a far narrow path into that B gap because of how he got beat to the inside. So he holds closer to that guard, but when you open up early, you kind of give the defensive end a much easier path around. So what Mike Green does is he understands that, and he gets inside, right? Hands are down from the offensive tackle. When you have low hand carriage like that, you're allowing defensive ends into your chest. And when you have that speed to power like Mike Green does, he's able to get inside and then extend right there, using that inside hand to extend and push off the tackle, and then just keep that outside hand free so he can get through. This time he forces the quarterback outside of the pocket, so where no play happens downfield and he runs out of bounds there. So again, speed to power, understanding your sequencing as a pass rusher is very important, and he does a really nice job of that. And I talked about how he has a lot of pass rush tools, right? He's so toolsy with not just the hand usage, the different ways that he can attack outside and inside, and the sequencing itself, but a bunch of different, rip, swim. This time he's got a counter to that as well, where he sets up inside, spins to the outside. Really nice job of showcasing that ice pick. And the ice pick technique, when you're using that spin move, is around the outside arm, comes in and hits the tackle in the ribs. It's what you're looking for in the back somewhere. So here he is again on the outside here. And this is where you're going to see him kind of attack inside. Okay, so he's going to take an inside route towards the tackle and then just spin out. Very good, quick move from him when he's coiled. And there it is right there. This is that inside move, right? You want that tackle to think you're going inside. Then he spins off of it. Inside hand out right there, right there. There's that elbow. Right there, he's looking for it. So he already cleared the tackle with the spin move. So he's just trying to throw that inside hand right there. Not the outside, my apologies. Inside arm, elbow right there into the hips. So he clears it, but he already had, and it was just quick, easy. And then he's able to get to Will Howard for the sack. So when you have all of those different speed tools and that threatening ability, but also the awareness to change your route movement or your attack movement based off of what the tackle is doing, I think that makes his ability so unique. And right here, another Senior Bowl clip for you guys where he's going to do a nice job of just swiping those hands away. This is actually a nice extension from the Boston College tackle. And then you see how he's got those long arms, but this is where Mike Green does, again, nice job of varying things, right? He can be a speed rusher off the edge. He can attack inside, but also he has fast, quick hands and active hands that he can get around there. One thing that I'm going to be keeping an eye on for Mike Green as we not only go through the combine process, but as a rookie, is that cornering ability. The difference for me is he's very good at bending at the hips and with his shoulders, getting different angles for himself as a rusher. I'm not entirely sure he has great ankle flexion. What that means is right here, when you're winning to the outside, how do your ankles bend, flex around that allows your body to continue that acceleration in the same arc and not get pushed out this way, right? You want to be able to corner around that tackle, but you see how his path gets kind of rotated out around the quarterback in this scenario. I want to keep an eye on how he can improve that ankle flexion, because it is something you can improve as a pass rusher. So we see the tools, those different hand usages that he has. We also know he can attack inside, outside. He has a lot of counters as a pass rusher. So all of those things being said, Mike Green has some things that he needs to work on with the pad level, improving that ankle flexion as a pass rusher, and then really setting an edge as a run defender, which I do think, again, all of those are coachable, they're teachable, but he has the main thing you're looking for with the tools as a pass rusher: speed to power, speed to win off the edge, and he also has a frame that you're looking for with those 34-inch arms, 6'3", 251 pounds, and he can put on even more weight, I think, to not just hold up against the run, but to continue to collapse pockets as a stunter, a diver, anywhere you want him. You can move him around and really be an impactful rusher from any spot along that defensive line. So Mike Green is going to be a top 20 player in this draft class, and I can't wait to see where he goes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video breakdown of Mike Green, who's been one of the most talked about prospects coming out of the Senior Bowl. If you guys are new here to the YouTube channel on the Draft Network, please hit that sub button right now, hit the like on the way out, and I'll see you guys next time.